Well, what do we have here? You have returned. I must say I am delighted and elated because now we get to see what your soul and your spine is really made of. Welcome to Audio Stories 3 Terrifying Tales. Now without further ado, let us begin. This is the tragic life as the mirror-haired man. It has lots of ups and downs. I was born with a mirror for a head. Everyone was baffled. Having a mirror for a head makes people reflect on themselves, and I wonder as a child that other children would draw on my face. The two types of faces they will draw on my face were smiley faces because I didn't have any eyes, ears or nose. My face was beloved by attractive people who enjoyed looking at themselves. When I'm in elevators, attractive people would look at themselves at my face while pulling a face, and some enjoyed taking me out so they can keep on looking at themselves. People who were unattractive hated me, as they hated looking at themselves, and I was a constant reminder of how ugly they were. With me being around them so much, with no fault of my own, they would end up trying to smash my face or cover my head with paint. I healed from the crack marks, and then I found a friend. His name was Mark. I met him somberly at work, and then he found a wonderful use for my head. He allowed me to be his friend, and one thing he enjoyed doing was make me stand opposite in the mirror, where it would make an infinite amount of reflections of him. He would only take me around to his family's house when there was disputes and no one could decide on anything. He once took me to meet his parents, and he told me to stand opposite at the mirror of him in the middle. All of his family members were present, as well as his very old grandfather. Mark then shouted, "Anyone who wants grandfather to live, raise your hands up." And everyone except Mark put their hands up. Then Mark shouted, "Anyone who wants grandfather to be murdered, put your hands up." And only Mark was the one who put his hands up, because he was between me and another mirror. It showed an infinite amount of times of Mark putting his hand up. Mark had won, and his grandfather was shot in the head in some forest, and everyone was blaming me. Another time, Mark had told me to come round his family's house with him again, standing opposite another mirror, and Mark was in the middle. Mark shouted loud, "Anyone who doesn't want my mother to be buried alive, put your hands up." And everyone put their hands up, except Mark. And then he shouted, "Anyone who wants mother to be buried alive, put your hands up." And Mark was the only one who put his hands up, but between me and another mirror showing an infinite amount of times he was putting his hands up. His mother is currently being buried alive, and I am being emotionally and verbally abused for it. I'm going to stay away from Mark from now on. Have you ever remembered a dream hours after waking up? Something triggers a memory of it, and you struggle to recall the details which are hazy. With an effort you can piece together bits of it, but never the whole thing. This happens to me from time to time. I'll have a dream and then instantly forget it upon waking up, but then sometimes during the day, it comes back to me. That happened to me today, just now in fact. The same as in my dream, I see a figure approaching in the darkness. I'm standing in the alley waiting for a friend and feeling alone and way too vulnerable to be here by myself. I wonder if it's him coming towards me, and I get deja vu. His gait is different. It doesn't look like Sam, but in the darkness, I can't tell. How else would it be out here at this hour in the rain, in the middle of the night, the city seeming so full of people and yet empty and desolate? I see something glint and shimmer in his hand. I can make out the silhouette of a knife he is holding, the switchblade he carries with him. Why would Sam be carrying a knife like that? I couldn't help wonder to myself, Sam? His voice calls back to me, raspy and hurt-sounding, but it's his. I can tell that it's him, and that fills me with a wave of relief. Help! Help me. Stumbling towards me, I see something else behind him. The creature looks like nothing I had seen before, except that now I think about it, I have seen it before. In my dream from the night prior, if I had to compare it with anything, it would be an octopus, except that it walks upright like a person. It has dozens of tentacles, long and thin. It uses some of them to ambulate, others flailing around and sensing the nearby environment. Its eyes red and glow in the darkness. I see as it gets closer that its skin is blue and alien. More of the tentacles are wrapped around my friend, poking into the skin of Sam's head. And now I realize why his movements appear jerky and puppet-like. It's because he is being controlled by the creature. Thunder crashes in the night sky. For a horrible moment, it illuminates more of its terrifying face. His beak with sharp, tiny teeth stretched at the corners of its smile. Sam yells at me as he plunges a knife into my heart, and then I wake up in bed. It had seemed so real, but suddenly the memory of it was fading again. Even though it's late, I'll see if Sam is up. There's no way I can go back to sleep after that nightmare. Oh, what do you know? He's awake. I said to meet me in the alley behind his building. Standing in the darkness, in the rain, I see a figure approaching. Deja vu. Cover your eyes. What do you see? Shut off the lights. What do you see? Look into the night. What do you see? I can glow, lighter than black, at the same time, darker. You can't go back, you can't go further. When you imagine darkness, you see I can glow. When you picture null, you see I can glow. When all is void, there is I can glow. Observing, watching, I can glow. I stood in my bathroom scrolling through Instagram whilst brushing my teeth. The solid black box with slightly lighter text was incredibly difficult to read. I almost scrolled past, but as the words became clear, a poem unfurled before me. Eigenglow. I hadn't heard of the term before. Pulling up Wikipedia, I searched it up. Eigenglow is also called Eigengleisch, dark light or brain grey. It's a uniform dark grey background that many people report seeing the absence of light. Intrigued, I returned to the poem. Why would it observe and watch? It's just a shade of black. I decided it was just something a stranger posted to scare people. There's a lot of freaks who do that. I stepped out of the bathroom and I slipped my phone into my pocket. Saturday morning. Nothing to do. I strolled down the hallway into the kitchen and cooked some eggs. When I stepped into the kitchen, I flipped the light switch on, only to be met with darkness. And then I realized I did have something to do. Mental note, get new kitchen lights. Then I realized it was much darker than 10 a.m. on a Saturday should be. I looked out of the window and realized I could barely see the sky. It was like midnight outside. Shadows crept through the kitchen. The darkness grew the longer I stood there. The poem came back to my mind. What do I see? I looked down. I couldn't see my hands. It'd gotten at least 20 times darker in a span of few seconds. Lighter than black. At the same time, darker. The last shreds of light slithered past me back into the hallway. I turned in an attempt to follow them to escape the suffocating emptiness, but my feet wouldn't move. It was almost as if they were blending with the void around me, succumbing to the endless null surrounding them. You can't go back. You can't go farther. I didn't need to imagine anymore. The poem's words were all too real now. I couldn't tell if my eyes were even open anymore. 2 points of light, no, dark, appeared in front of me. I watched as they grew. They got closer, pulsing with malice. When all is void, there is Eigenglow. A shape began to form in the blank darkness before me, almost humanoid. It twitched and shivered as it drew darkness from its surroundings to deepen its own barren blackness. The dark yet light eyes sharpened, observing, watching. The shadow within the shadow consumed me, and all that remained was Egangrass.